got the airplane pre-flighted and everything, so
We're ready to go.
all we need to do is jump in and head for Houston.
After you, sir.
This is John Denver inviting you to climb aboard and join us for a trip that can only be described as far out. We've got a date today with a dream, one of man's oldest, the dream of flight. We're going to go places today where even the birds have never been. We'll be doing everything from ballooning to barnstorming to blasting off. Along the way, we'll meet some heroes, a couple of geniuses, and some people like you and me. But most of all, I can promise you we're going to have some fun. I hope you folks recognize me, but I'm not sure you recognize the gentleman on my right. He's my father, Deutschendorf. He's been a pilot all his life. He taught me how to fly. Simply couldn't do this film without him. For a long time, I couldn't even get him in an airplane. Now, can't keep him out of it. Yeah, but I tell you what, I think he enjoys it as much as I do.
You can say that again.
I want you folks to sit down, strap your seatbelts on. Over the next hour, we're going to take you a few places you've probably never been before. You better hang on, because we're going to be going for it. That's it. We're going to fire up a balloon and float over the Colorado Rockies. We'll take a sentimental journey back to Kitty Hawk to fly an exact reproduction of the Wright brothers' original flyer. We're going to find out what made those daring young men and women so daring back in the romantic days of barnstorming. And for a fantastic thrill, we'll plunge through the sound barrier in one of the world's fastest jets. So check those seat belts again, because this flight is ready to go. The rockets of the 60s took man beyond the pull of gravity to float free on the edge of space. By the end of the decade, the rock-covered moon had become a stepping stone to infinity. Who can say where the space shuttle will take us tomorrow? At Palomar Observatory, we'll peer into the depths of space and wonder at the possible life forms we may discover there. We'll experience the thrill of flying the highest performance jets. And then we'll just lie back a little and enjoy the fun of floating over the Rockies or rocking into a barrel roll. We'll even get a little hilarious at New York's Rhinebeck Aerodrome, where expert pilots spoof the legendary aces of World War I. You don't have to be the Red Baron to figure out that everybody from Rickenbacker to von Richthofen gets kidded in these weekend melodramas. Has been with us for a couple of hundred years. In those brave old days, though, the way you did it was to carry a bonfire in a basket under a highly flammable bag made of paper or cloth. If it strikes you that it wasn't the safest way of getting off the ground, you're right. But at the time, it was the only way. In recent years, the development of the propane burner and flame-proofing has been responsible for putting balloons back in the air. This ancient pastime has now become a safe, spectacular, and enormously popular sport. Rallies like this one at Snowmass, Colorado, now bring balloonists together all over the world. Here at Snowmass, the high Rockies provide a majestic backdrop for these colorful giants. If anybody asks you what time the balloon is going up, you're generally safe if you tell them right after sunup, since the wind conditions for hot air ballooning are best soon after dawn. It's the kind of sport that gets you up early.
Let me goose it one time.
The very first time we actually got off the ground, it wasn't on the Wright brothers' wings. In fact, it was before the combustion engine was even a good idea. It was way back on November 21st, 1783, right?
Right.
In a hot air balloon. Hang on! Everybody up!
There you go.
We're still doing it today because it's great! When the Montgolfier brothers sent their first balloon up in Paris in 1783, it drew an enormous crowd. Among the onlookers was Benjamin Franklin, our ambassador to France at the time. As the balloon rose into the air, someone asked Franklin, "Of what possible use is it?" And Franklin's answer, as usual, was right to the point. "Of what possible use," he replied, "is a newborn baby?" Well, floating along in the breeze, suspended from a bubble of hot air, is great fun, but don't ever confuse it with powered, controlled flight. It took 120 years following that first balloon ascension in 1783 and the genius of the Wright brothers to solve the riddle of the ages and get man off the ground in powered flight for the first time. A hot air balloon can get you off the ground, but what about wings? Men have always envied birds their place in the sky, but it took two bicycle mechanics from Ohio, Wilbur and Orville Wright, to show us how to join the birds in powered flight. Here on Kill Devil Hill near Kitty Hawk, North Carolina, we've returned to the exact spot where the Wright brothers' original flyer first took to the air on that historic December 17th in 1903. My dad and I have returned here, along with some friends, to see if we can make history repeat itself. With my wife Annie here to give encouragement, and Dad supplying plenty of supervision, we're off to a good start. We're all here to join Ken and Nancy Kellett, a young couple from Colorado. Ken has built an exact replica of the original Wright flyer. My dad seems to feel that the untried replica may be just as dangerous to fly as the original. We're here to answer the same question the Wright brothers must have asked themselves on that December day in 1903. Will it fly? To really appreciate the giant step the Wright brothers took here at Kitty Hawk, it helps if you imagine someone asking you to design an airplane and you had never seen one. Since their flyer had no wheels, it was launched from a trolley on a greased skid. We'll be doing it the same way. The brothers were far from being ordinary bicycle mechanics who somehow stumbled onto the airplane through dumb luck. It took years of study and experimentation and repeated failure before they got it right. And along the way, danger was a constant companion. To attempt a takeoff from the same spot as the Wright brothers has to give you a feeling of awe. If this flyer takes to the air, it will be like leaving hallowed ground. By today's sophisticated standards, that attempt may look like a failure. But when the Wrights flew that long in 1903, few would believe it had happened at all. I guess everybody in love with flying wants to go farther, faster, and higher. I know we're ready to give it another try. It was a strange combination of Wilbur's noticing the way a buzzard's wingtips turned down as it banked in flight, and his twisting a long box from which he was unpacking a bicycle inner tube that led the brothers to a momentous breakthrough. They theorized that by twisting or warping the wingtips, they might be able to keep the machine on an even keel. This they accomplished by cleverly rigging a set of cables which the pilot could control by shifting his hips. Our last flight of the day does a little damage, but the original flyer also cracked up before the technique was perfected. But it flew.
It flew, yeah.
Well, listen, I tell you what, I really admire anybody that sets out to do something and goes for it and does it. And you did that. You built that airplane, you made it fly, you proved you could do it. I congratulate you.
Thanks, John.
Heck of a job. Once the first plane was off the ground, everybody wanted to get into the act. The idea of flying took off overnight.
Hiya, folks! Guess who?